The Orlando Magic are still picking up the pieces after their Game 1 loss. What can they learn from Game 1 to take into Game 2? We'll get to that today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 22nd, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, as well as a credentialed member of the Orlando Media, covering the team since 2010. I'm also here in Boston, if you can't tell. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to talk about what the Magic learned, the big lesson from Game 1, why this series is all about pace, what we can and can't believe from Game 1, and the key lessons for Game 2. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I feel like I have said this every day since last Tuesday, since the Magic beat the Hawks and we knew the Magic were facing the Boston Celtics. This series is a tall order. Like there's no getting around it. And yes, to play these elite teams, and the Boston Celtics are an elite team, to play these elite teams means you're going to face a very difficult prospect. You're going to face a team that knows what they're doing, that can beat you in multiple ways, that can take advantage of every mistake. If it wasn't clear from Game 1, let's make it clear now. Orlando has to play well. They not only have to play well, they have to play very well to win in this series, to beat the Boston Celtics. It is not a difficult equation. It is not a challenging equation. It's a challenging equation. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has said at various points that they have the answers to all the tests, but it's one thing to have the answers to the test. It's another thing to actually pass the test, because it's not about having the answers. It's about getting to the answer. It's about the equations that get you there. And one piece of that equation, which was abundantly clear, was that this series was going to be about tempo. Now, we could argue pace. We could talk about, the number of possessions. We'll get to some of that stuff here. But for the Orlando Magic to have a shot to beat the Boston Celtics, they had to control the speed at which this series was played. It couldn't be Boston racing up and down the court, getting three-pointers. It couldn't be Boston going up against this Magic defense without their defense set. Because Orlando's strength is its half-court defense. They're good defensively everywhere, but anything that you do to make Boston's life easier, if Boston's able to do that, they're going to win. They may even win if you make their life hard. That's how good Boston is. But what went wrong ultimately in Game 1 was Boston controlled the tempo. Boston controlled the pace. Boston created turnovers, created tough shots that led to fast breaks. They were able to beat the Magic before they could get their defense set, far more than Orlando could beat Boston before they could get their defense set. And of course, these are two top 5 defensive teams. Anything you can do to make it just a little bit easier to score is going to help you in the end. Is going to make you a better team. This is where the Celtics won the game. 16 for 37 shooting from 3, 7 for 12 from Derek White, 3 for 4 from Drew Holiday, all in the third quarter. 4 for 6 from Peyton Pritchard. He had 2 of them in the second quarter. I think he had 2 of them plus a foul on a 3-pointer in the third. 26 fast break points to Orlando's 4. 24 points off 15 turnovers. I believe they had 10 off of 6, or 12 off of 6 or probably more than that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. In the third, in that telltale third quarter, Orlando wasn't able to build the momentum they needed. In fact, in many ways, Orlando handed the game to the Celtics because Boston was able to run. Now, pace has been a weird thing. It's a weird stat. It's a weird concept. It's not about the possessions per 48 minutes, which is often what we talk about when we talk about pace. These are the two lowest pace teams in the league. They played the fewest possessions in the league throughout the year. We're going to get to some statistical outliers here coming up in a minute. The Magic are comfortable playing a low possession game. That's what they want. They want to drag these things out. They want to muck these games up. Boston is perfectly fine doing that too. There's one area where these two teams probably agree offensively. But the Magic's issue always comes because they're too slow within their offense. They're struggling to get into their sets. They're not getting into their sets until there's 14, 13, 12 seconds left on the shot clock. And that version of pace, the ability to just run into your sets, to get movement and motion, is just as important as these fast breaks that I'm talking about in the bigger global sense. The Celtics won the game because they slowed the Magic to a crawl. And look, if you've watched the Magic for any portion of this season, you know the offense's biggest issues, the offense's biggest trouble, the offense's biggest struggles come when they're too slow. It comes when it takes them too long to get into their stuff. When they try to force the ball to Paolo, and by the time he catches it, he has 6, 7, maybe 8 seconds left on the shot clock to do anything. Then the Magic only have one opportunity to attack the basket. No chance for second drive, second side, third side, moving the ball around the perimeter. None of that. And this is what Boston's good at. This is what Orlando was good at for a good chunk of the game on Sunday as well. Forcing Boston into isolations, forcing their star players to have to do too much against a really good set defense. Orlando's got the same problem going up against Boston. The difference is Boston can make those shots in a way that Orlando can't always do. Boston has other ways to create shots while Orlando is wildly inconsistent. That's putting it kindly, wildly inconsistent with their shooting. The team that controls tempo, I'm going to call it tempo. The team that controls tempo, the one that feels like they're the aggressors, the ones that feel like they're moving and in motion, that's the team that's going to win in this series. That's the team that's going to win game after game after game after game. To me, that's just the reality. And this is something Orlando struggled with all season. Now, I want to give Orlando some credit. They've noted this problem. They talk about this problem a lot. Whether they fix it or not, again, answers to the test are there. Whether they fix this problem, it's up for debate. Look, we could beat around the bush. It's a personnel problem. Orlando needs better players to play the style that they want to play offensively. They don't have the players that they need to make this work. And some of it is, they're missing them because they're hurt. Some of them is they're missing them because they're not on the roster. I want to avoid offseason questions until we get to the offseason. But if the Magic want to compete in this series, if the Magic want to have a chance to steal a game, steal 2 games, make this a series, it must start with their pace. It must start with their tempo. It must start with the speed and intensity in which they run their offense. And that's what was off. If you go back, watch the shots in the third quarter, Orlando gets some good looks. They miss plenty of looks that they're going to have to make. And look, Boston's really good defensively at the rim. They force them into those shots, but you can see Orlando initiating action, starting their main action with 12, 13 seconds left on the shot clock. That cannot happen. You can see turnovers that lead to fast breaks that give Boston these extra possessions. Orlando has to be better. And honestly, in a lot of ways, I don't want to take credit away from Boston, but in a lot of ways, Orlando handed the game to the Celtics. And that is the one thing that absolutely cannot happen. Boston has to beat you more than you beat yourself. You're going to make mistakes. But Orlando let Orlando beat them. Again, I don't want to take away from Boston. Boston deserved to win. To me, Orlando made more mistakes than Boston won the game. And that is a disappointing thing to say. Because frankly, if there is a concern, it's that this game, game one, was an outlier game in many respects. Let's talk about what may not last as we get ready for game two and what feels a little permanent. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether you're picking your favorite team or diving into player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. This is the beauty of a 7-game series. If this were a single elimination game, it would be, okay, you got to play really well. Magic didn't play well. They lost, whatever. The beauty of a 7-game series is there's variance. Weird things happen. Things you don't expect to happen. You're allowed a little bit of wiggle room to make mistakes. And the approach, or at least the thought from practice on Monday, this was just one game. There are things we got to be better at. We've got to play better. It's just one game. And in a lot of respects, it was a weird game. A lot of weird things happened. Beyond, look, Paolo and Franz did their jobs. Like they're the ones that did their jobs. Orlando got so little from other players. It is hard to imagine that will happen again. If anything, it is hard to imagine because Paolo and Franz are going to look out and say, we're going to get others involved. We'll make it a point, whether we win or lose on that. Again, the Magic have to play well. The Magic need another 59. The Magic are going to need nearly 60 points from Paolo and Franz to win these games. They got 59. They did that part of the job. They needed some support. They needed some help. But there are just so many weird stats that came out of this game. Let's talk about that playmaking, that distribution issue. The Magic had 17 assists on 34 field goals. And again, you're going to be pretty happy with that, like about 50%. They only had 27 potential assists, by far the fewest in the NBA during game ones of the playoffs. Now, potential assists, according to Second Spectrum, is a pass that leads to a shot attempt that would have been an assist had the shot gone in. So you take your assists and your missed assists, and that's how you get that. That means Orlando just did not move the ball. Now, this is a problem in Orlando's offense. The ball tends to stick. It relies so heavily on Paolo and Franz. It's going to need a little bit more. I find it hard to believe the Magic will struggle to move the ball this much, or that the Magic will not make it a focus to move the ball more. Huge outlier in this game. Same as the turnovers weren't an outlier. Orlando does tend to turn the ball over a little bit. They've been better about it over the last month and a half, but they had a bad turnover game. That happens for them. You can argue that they're 10 for 27 shooting from three, 37% is an outlier, shooting 37% from three. The Magic, again, are like 15-8 or 15-7 or 18-5 or something like that when they shoot 37% or better from three this season. 37% shooting from three is top 10 in the league. Orlando made their threes when they could get them. They did not get enough of them. But the biggest outlier in this game is that big stat that I talked about earlier. Boston outscored Orlando 26-4 in fast break points. The Celtics have only 2 other games this season where they scored 26 or more fast break points, and both of them were within the first month of the season. They hadn't done that since late October, early November. Orlando had only 4 games this season, giving up 26 or more fast break points. So, and one of them was the Hawks game to end the regular season. So, understanding that, it is hard to believe that even if the Magic turn the ball over a little bit too much, that the Magic will give up that many fast break points again. And to me, like, that was the difference in the game. There's a fast break that Franz Wagner had the turnover on that led to a three by Jrue Holiday. Big sequence, big play, big mistake. The Celtics, like the Magic, are trying to find easy points. They're trying to get out in transition. They're trying to create easy baskets too. And they got them. And while I think you can certainly trust Boston to do this a little bit better than the Magic, I find it hard to believe that this will not be an emphasis to get back in transition, get the defense set, and make it harder for Boston to get those threes. And transition, like I said this a million times before the series, I think the Magic's half-court defense versus the Boston half-court offense is going to be about a wash. Some games Boston might do a little bit better. They'll score on them, even though it's a good defense. Orlando will get their licks in. They'll make it hard on them. The difference in this game is, can Orlando create turnovers to get out in transition, 11 turnovers for 8 points in game one, versus what's Boston going to do when the Magic make their mistakes? Long rebounds off missed threes, turnovers. We learned that answer. Boston's going to eviscerate the Magic from beyond the arc. If that happens, that's where a good chunk of Boston's threes came from, and certainly the ones they made came from those transition plays. This is going to be a big challenge for Orlando. Of course, like, one of the bigger outliers is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum scored 17 points, shot 8 for 22, 1 for 8 from 3. Our good friend, Jaylen Brown, 16 points, coming back from an injury, but 16 points, 6 for 14 shooting. Didn't really do very much. Orlando did a good job bottling them up, and as our friend John Corrales from Locked On Celtics, we spoke about it after game one ended, he said he felt the duo tried to do too much. The Magic baited them into the ISO plays, into kind of the star shots that they're not supposed to take, that this offense is supposed to eliminate because the ball movement's so good that you have to double, you have to trap, you have to do all that stuff. The Magic were able to guard them one-on-one, force them into difficult one-on-one shots, and clean up the glass for rebounds. For the most part. We'll talk about rebounding here in a minute. It is hard to, this was the bad Jason Tatum game. And that's a game the Magic had to win. This is why it feels like Orlando left one on the table. There's a lot of elements in this game that Orlando did well that should have led to a win. And it didn't. Orlando didn't get the job done. They didn't play well enough to take advantage of these things. It's hard to believe that they will get another bad Jason Tatum game. Now, figuring out how to lock out Derek White, maybe that means he's on the ball more, taking some of the tough shots they want him to take, limiting those three-point shots. It's a math problem. It really is a math problem for Orlando. They don't score and shoot enough if Boston gets themselves going. It is hard to believe that Jason Tatum won't be good. It's just hard to believe he won't bounce back with a really strong game. So the Magic have to be prepared for that and have to find ways to stop that when it comes to it. The one final outlier I want to talk about is rebounding. Orlando has few advantages in this. Well, there's two more outliers I want to talk about. Let's say rebounding for the last segment. Last outlier I want to talk about in this segment is the free throw shooting. Now, free throws are down in the playoffs. You expect that, but free throws were down, way down, fewer than 20 attempts per game among all teams. Lowest in a very, very long time. Orlando was second in the league in getting the foul line, and Boston doesn't foul a lot. They only took 11 free throws. And there was clearly some frustration with how few free throws they were getting. It wasn't that, again, I think Boston defended well. I think they avoided fouling for the most part. I think it came down to both the Celtics understanding, they're going to let us play. They're not going to call whistles. They're going to let us be physical. We're going to match physicality. I'm going to talk more about that here in a minute. Orlando was certainly willing to foul. They're a heavy foul team, 13 for 18 for the Celtics from the foul line. Orlando cannot lose the foul battle. They have to get to the line. It's their only way to make up for the threes. So there's two ways the Magic make up for three-point shooting. One is free throws. They get to the foul line a ton. They make a ton of free throws. The other is an important lesson for game two, and that's offensive rebounds and second chance points. Why the Magic have to stress this big advantage as they prepare for game two and what they failed to do in game one. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. So like I said before the break, the Orlando Magic have very few advantages over the Boston Celtics. Again, I'm sitting here analyzing the Magic. I believe they can win games in this series. I believe they can make this a tougher series than everybody says, but they got to play well. The margin for error is ridiculously small. You make one mistake, Boston is going to make you pay. Orlando could play 3 really good quarters, 3.5 really good quarters, but you fall asleep for 4 minutes and you're down 15. That's how good this Boston team is. I don't want to take anything away from the Celtics team. This is different than the Cavs last year. Obviously, the Magic are a different team. They're the players that they have right now that are available are not the players they had last year that they needed. This is not a team like Cleveland that has a lot of talent, but a lot of uncertainty. This Boston team is very good. This is a championship level team the Magic are facing. Championship aspirations are well warranted. They're my pick to win the championship. I don't want to take anything away from Boston or dismiss anything Boston is doing to cause the problems the Magic are having. Orlando is a flawed team. I think they are capable of winning games in the series, but they've got to play well. And again, they didn't play well enough on Sunday. They did some good things. They did some things I think they can build on, but they didn't play well enough. And a big area where they didn't play well enough, especially in that second half, was physicality. This team has to be the more physical team. If they want to make Boston feel uncomfortable, they've got to hit it. And I don't mean flagrant foul, which everyone kind of agrees shouldn't have been called a flagrant foul on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Appreciated the hard foul, though. I think that was a good thing for Orlando. The foul on Jason Tatum where he allegedly hurt his wrist, he's going to be fine. He's going to play on Wednesday. I'm not calling for anything dirty. I want to make that very, very clear. I'm not calling for anything dirty, but this is a team that fouls a lot. They want that, they're going to play physical. They're going to hit you. They're going to wear you down by the fourth quarter. That is part of the strategy. But what happened in the second half was the Magic lost that physicality, lost that physical edge. Boston hit them first and hit them repeatedly, and you could see and feel them get frustrated. You could see and feel them try to force their way back into the game rather than playing naturally through the actions and playing naturally through pace. They let themselves get pummeled in that second half. And again, you don't need to look much further than the stats. Orlando had 13 offensive rebounds. They had 10 in the first half, but only 7 second chance points. They ended with 11 second chance points. They were 5 for 16 on second chance field goal attempts. 5 for 16. You make a regular percentage. Boston was 6 for 10 for 17 points off 9 offensive rebounds. A good chunk of them coming in that second half, where Boston was first to the ball a lot of times, first to a lot of loose balls. A lot of balls kind of squirted their way, got to them. Orlando was just unable to dig out some key rebounds, and there were a lot of big plays that Boston made that changed the game. Orlando they have to win the hustle battle. They have to win these points on the margins. So my big point after game one, Orlando lost so much on the margins that they have to win. So lesson for game two then. You got to be the team that hits first. You got to hit often. And you got to win the hustle points. Like I did this after the game on the pod the other day. To get your official box score, you can find them on NBA.com. These stats on the bottom, I tend to look at these stats first because they tell a lot about this team because we know the shooting problems, we know the offensive problems. These stats on the bottom, points in the paint, Magic won that, but barely. Very low number for them. They're usually up in the upper 40s. They got outscored 32-28 in the paint. Usually the Magic are up in the 40s. Boston's very good defending the paint. Not going to sit here and deny that. Orlando's got to get more in the paint. Fast break points, getting out in transition, limiting those opportunities for the other team so you can get your defense set. Orlando didn't do that. Second chance points, extra possessions, extra shot opportunities. You made a mistake. You missed a shot. No big deal. We got the rebound, usually in a good spot to score or kick out for 3. Orlando has to win these points. Like very, very simply, Orlando has to win these points. We know what Paolo's going to do. We know what Franz is going to do. Got to get the Magic have to do a better job getting others involved. But Orlando also lost a lot of these critical points and lost a lot of these big, big momentum changing plays. And that is a huge, huge, huge deficit for Orlando to overcome. Again, I don't want to take anything away from Boston. I want to give them a lot of credit. I do believe game one was as much about what the Magic gave away as much as it about what the Boston Celtics took. The Celtics took what the Magic were giving them. The Magic are going to need to take stuff from the Celtics to win this series. to win in this series, not much less win the series. Orlando gave too much away. And that's the ultimate lesson for game 2. If Orlando protects the ball, doesn't turn it over too much, if Orlando gets some movement, gets the offensive glass, I'm not guaranteeing a win, but the Magic can win. They can be competitive. They can give themselves a shot to win. And then it just becomes about shot making. And if Orlando loses because they don't make shots, it's going to suck, but I can live with that. That's how we want this team to lose, because they didn't make enough shots. Orlando missed quality shots throughout the course of that third quarter, but they gave too many possessions away. That's why they lost. That's what they have to find again in game 2. And we'll see if the Magic can bounce back, if the Magic can find it, because game 2 is a different game. That's good for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of my podcasts to your podcast-enabled device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub, where I will have a video up in the morning breaking down what went right offensively in the second quarter as opposed to what went wrong in the third quarter. That'll be up in the morning tomorrow, or in the morning on the 22nd of April, to get you ready for game 2. Hope to do more playbook videos as we go through this playoff series. As if all that's enough, you can also check out the Locked On Magic daily newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage, delivered right to your inbox. Subscribe to that Locked On Magic newsletter for expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free. Plus, as a subscriber, you'll be entered to win one of these 3 amazing prizes: a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card to get tickets to the game, and a $200 Fanatics gift card to dress the part when you get there. It's easy and free to enter. Simply subscribe between now and April 30th to be automatically entered to win. Don't miss a moment of the playoff run. Join the Locked On Magic newsletter today and experience playoffs like never before. Subscribe today and enter to win by clicking the link in the description or going to LockedOnDaily.com. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll talk tomorrow a little bit about kind of what's on the line for Paolo Banchero, why this is an important playoff series for his, and let's go ahead and talk Franz Wagner's legacy. I'll try to get to that tomorrow, but until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.